All right, let me tell you about this amazing story. Local cops here in North Texas, we have all kinds of violent crime. Nonviolent crime is just as serious. Glad they busted this very dangerous theft ring that was targeting Legos. All right, hey, here, let's just go ahead and make fun of these people for a second. Welcome to the monologue. I'm your host, James Parker. We're going to make fun of the Lego theft ring. First things first. If you're in a dangerous street gang and you're targeting Legos, you're not really in a dangerous street gang. Can we just get that out the way? No, but the Lego street gang, this is real. And they are notorious here downtown. They keep having street rumbles with the thugs repping Connect 4. Oh, man. No, but the Lego street gang, you're not familiar with their territory, but they do rule the elementary school's reading carpet with an iron fist. That's sort of their hood. But no, I just read on the WFAA website, after the Dallas police tracked them down, they arrested them all, and they threw them in a jail made from erector sets. And finally, if you're wondering how someone gets into stealing Legos, it doesn't start with Legos. It usually starts with a gateway theft, like Jack and Lincoln logs. This is stupid. So stupid. All right, quick update on the James Show Christmas party meetup event. It's going to be at Richardson Bar and Grill, Tuesday, December 7th. 7 p.m. is when I'm going to aim to get there. When it is it in? Whenever I have to call an Uber. All right, if you want more details, you can email me, james@wbap.com. Send me a Facebook message, whatever. Tell a friend, tell an enemy. Let's make it happen. This isn't an official party. This is just us showing up, hanging out. There's going to be no real entertainment there. And no, you can't throw darts at me. I'm James Parker. This has been The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Well, hey there, all you beautiful Texans. Welcome back to The James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. I know, I'm pretty excited about it, too. Look, there's going to be one overarching question on today's show. And, I'm going to try and get some better answers than I think so, which is my answer for now. But when I see all the videos of the drones that are just kind of floating over someone's head up in New Jersey or that whole area, I'm like, why is no one just like, y'all don't have one idiot and you're millions of people live up there. None of them are idiots with a gun. None of them. Because I mean, down here, this would be like the new prize. Be like duck season, rabbit season. No, it's drone season, baby. So that's kind of one of the reasons I think they're not testing this down here. They have to test it up in New Jersey. If they did this in Houston, they'd come back with no drones. Anyway, if you have an answer for that's not so smart alecky, 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. My first guest is going to talk about something quite a bit more serious. Julie Bauke's back on with the Bauke Group. Listen, you do career coaching, and one of the things that has been of concern with the shooting of the United Healthcare CEO is that this kind of discourages some people from wanting to be a CEO or take on these dangerous jobs, or we didn't used to think of this as a dangerous job. What effect does this have on the job market and candidates for these jobs?
Interesting is that over the last, year, 2 years, there's been a real decrease in the number of people who are interested in promotions at all levels. And we used to climb the ladder. That used to be the thing. That used to be the entire reason we showed up. But more people are saying no thank you to whatever's the next natural step in their job or career. So this is creating a real vacuum in candidates for leadership at all positions. And so I would imagine that when you get up to that level, because people are looking at that and saying, with every level of my career comes additional responsibility, comes less freedom. Sure, it comes with more money, but money's not everything. And I'm not having a relationship with my kids, my spouse, and I'm much more visible in every way, whether it's in social media, whether it's with people who want to knock me off for some reason. And so the visibility that goes with promotions, even promotions at a lower level than CEO, instead of just saying, yes, please, like boomers and Gen X used to, the younger generations are saying, I'm not so sure it's worth the risk. So the activities of the last week or so certainly add to that reluctance.
Well, we have like a mini version of that in my industry. Like if once you get to this position, I don't make a ton of money, but I have that visibility like a CEO. So if I get pulled over for drunk driving going home from dinner last night, it's probably going to be in the paper. I'm probably going to lose my job. On the other side of the glass, though, Garrett, no one cares about him. He can go get pulled over for drunk driving. It's probably not going to make the paper. We probably wouldn't even know about it.
Yeah, that's true. You're right, because of social media, everything just gets really blown up and twisted, and there's so many false narratives out there. And so if you did get pulled over, it would not only would it make the news, but everybody who's ever listened to your show would come forward with all kinds of crazy conspiracy theories and, he was with this person and that person.
Oh, and I would automatically be an alcoholic. Yeah. There would be no middle ground to it. It's not like he's a casual drinker who just had a bad night. No, I'd be the worst thing ever. The other thing I've also seen in our industry that kind of echoes this new trend is in the sales department. You see someone get promoted to sales manager, and a lot of times after about 6 months or a year, they'll step back down into being just a regular salesperson. And they all say like the same two things. Number one is it's a totally different job and it's not worth the stress. Number two is I wasn't a salesperson anymore. I was in management, and that's not what I wanted to do. I liked being a salesperson, but now I'm not going on sales calls. I don't have clients and, get to wine and dine and have a good time. And no, it took all the fun out of their job. And so I've seen people voluntarily give back a promotion.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's so interesting is I've had a lot of conversations with Gen Z and millennials who are on that track, who are considered to be high potentials with their organization. And their ambivalence about taking on what they perceive as more responsibility that doesn't come with what feels like commensurate pay increase, they're not that thrilled with. It might be a fancier title, I might get something a little, but they're not seeing the benefit of doing that. And anytime, so the thing that popped to mind, because I know I was going to be talking to you this day, is I live in Cincinnati. And as you guys probably know, Joe Burrow's home got broken into when he was in Dallas on Monday.
It wasn't me.
I know.
Okay.
And it is amazing to me what his and then, of course, his swimsuit model, apparently girlfriend, is the one who called it in. And we know in Cincinnati he's a very private person. And all of a sudden, everything, I have seen so many false stories associated with that we here know to be false, and it's just blown up. And so and he said, I understand this comes with the territory. This comes to being a high-profile person. But it's difficult. Even though I'm a high-profile person, this is really, really difficult to take. And I think we've just lost any sense that when you are a high-profile person or a highly paid person in any field, that you really give up a lot more than most of us would be willing to give up.
Julie Bauke, where do they find your work outside of WBAP?
Julie on the Job on Instagram and TikTok, the Bauke Group online on our website is the Bauke Group.
All right. Well, thank you. It's perfect time to talk to a career coach, so I appreciate your time.
Anytime. Bye.
There's Julie Bauke. I got an email question here from Russell that I think you would like, because sometimes when I get an email, I'm like, I bet a lot of people are thinking these same questions. So Russell says, question number 1, why does the president need presidential immunity if he can pardon himself like you hear people say he's going to do? Well, the president, if he doesn't have presidential immunity, he would just be bogged down in lawsuits and unable to do his job if he didn't have the immunity. If you could sue him for the jobs that he's doing while he's still in office, especially, but really when he gets out of office, you kind of need some level of immunity because they are doing extrajudicial things as actually part of their job, because look, whenever you say there's going to be a law for anything that's going to be enforced by anything more than a fine, even with a fine, what happens if you don't pay the fine? You're going to go to jail. Well, anytime you're going to take someone to jail, put some cuffs on them, go through that process, you're risking an escalation, you're risking violence, and you pretty much have to say, this law is so important that it needs to be enforced, even knowing that some people are going to die in the enforcement of it. That's the crazy part about, plastic straws. I understand for like theft, if, we can't just let this guy go if he fights against us. So if he fights against us, we're going to have to fight back and he might end up dead. And if that's the price we pay for punishing thieves, that seems to be worth it. So it kind of goes along the lines of that. You have to have immunity to do your job. I mean, think about the war powers. Okay, he's the commander in chief of the military. And if he's going to drone someone on the other side of the planet, is he going to be able to get sued for that? Or is that murder? Or what happens if there's an American that charges the White House and and that he gets shot? So there's some level of immunity. The libertarian in me says we've gone way too far applying it to all the bureaucrats and police officers and whatnot. But there's things that they're involved to that are illegal under regular civil norms that are just a terrible part of having to enforce laws, period, point blank, given end of story. And plus, we haven't ever seen anyone pardon themselves. That's not to say it can't happen. There's just no precedent for it. But if you read the way it's written in the Constitution, I guess someone could get away with it. I don't know what the courts would say hadn't happened. Question number 2 from Russell. What did all the Democrats do so horrible and illegal during Biden's term that they would need to be pardoned ahead of time? All 10,000 of them. And what are they so worried about Trump's presidential immunity if they were the ones doing all the illegal stuff? Well, first you have to get them to admit they did illegal stuff. But yeah, whenever someone throws out the idea of I'm going to blanket pardon someone or a group of people, even if they haven't been charged with a crime, that makes you think, well, what did they do? What do you know that we don't know? Very good question. But they're concerned. They're really only concerned about Trump's presidential immunity because they want to circumvent that immunity that every other president, an elected official, bureaucrat, police officer, they've all enjoyed the immunity like this, and they want to get rid of that norm specifically to stop Trump. There's no real underpinning or philosophical base behind it. They're just anti-Trump. And then Russell also asked, how does all this blanket pardon stuff work? Like, does it have to be completely political, or does it cover anything and everything that person has done during that time, whether it's against Trump or not? If they robbed a federal bank, are they good? Or how exactly does a federal pardon work if you hadn't even been accused or investigated of anything yet? Like, if anything comes up, no matter what it is, are you actually free and clear and just good to go? For example, I hereby pardon the United States and all its citizens from 1940 till now. A little extreme, but you get it. Okay. Now, my answer for you, Russell, is not my answer. I've asked Jeremy Rosenthal different versions of those exact same questions. And so the way it's been practiced thus far, and again, these could be changed because the law, the way it's written in the Constitution, is so vague about presidential pardons that it really sounds like you could do that. There's just no one has. But the way it's been practiced so far, presidential pardons have been used to cover federal crimes. They've never been used to cover a blanket amount of time like we're doing with Hunter here. So this is kind of untested territory, but that doesn't mean it can't happen because go look at how it's written in the Constitution. Pretty vague. But also, I asked Jeremy Rosenthal the second part of your question. Can you be pardoned for something you haven't been accused or investigated of? Like if anything comes up, no matter what? Absolutely. Absolutely, yes, that's happened before. A couple of great examples that have happened right before me, but in the lifetime of most people listening to WBAP right now. When there was a blanket pardon for all the Vietnam draft dodgers, that was covering a sort of point in time and just a whole genre of different charges without doing anything specific. And most of the people who enjoyed those pardons hadn't been actively accused or investigated of anything. And then the other more specific one is the Richard Nixon one. Hey, anything that having to do with that Watergate crap, he's pardoned. He hadn't actually been charged with any crimes. He hadn't been indicted. So there's a couple of precedents for that, Russell. So again, these are not my original thoughts. I am just repeating what I heard from Jeremy Rosenthal. If you have any more questions, James at WBAP, James at WBAP. I got some more. Russell says, one more thought. I hear a lot about having a czar for this and a czar for that. In America, we're supposed to be free. Why are we worried so much about oversight and what's allowed and what's not allowed? If there's a law, follow it. If there's not a law, either make one or mind your own business. Ooh, I totally agree with you on this one. Czars are a terrible look, in my opinion, because czars are just, it appears to be someone who has control of a big federal agency or initiative. But since it's not a cabinet level position, we don't have to have Senate confirmation. So you kind of have the power of people in the cabinet, but you don't have the oversight or the, Senate approval, Senate confirmation. But aside from the theoretical stuff, in practice, czars have almost always seemed to be doing things that are unconstitutional to people who are originalists, people, libertarians or people in the Constitution Party, or the very far right wing of the Republicans, like a Mike Lee or a Rand Paul. Think about it. Drug czar. What do we need a drug czar for? I believe in ending all drug prohibition. We don't need a drug czar. We don't need the DEA. We don't need the FDA. The Constitution says there's no federal role for infringing on a citizen's freedom in regards to drugs. If you want to do something like that, maybe do it at the state level, but I would still recommend against it. Educational czar, same thing. I don't think we should have a Department of Education. I don't think we should have education regulations at the federal level. So why do we have an education czar? So yeah, not only do I not like them in principle, I don't like them in practice either. Also, I'm working on the owners of the place. They're all day listeners. They're big fans of WBAP. And they asked if we could do any specials. So I'm working out a deal with them right now to where if you order the hot wings on Tuesday at the James Show meetup, the unofficial James Show meetup, they can guarantee that all of them will be right wings. So. No, I can't tell the difference. It was a joke. Donald Kimball's joining us back on with Young Voices. Now, Donald Kimball, you're my guy that's keeping an eye on these, the nuances of the political world. And when Christopher Wray resigned, it's not surprising knowing that he's already had his successor named. But is this guy going to be in trouble?
It's a good question. I think that, when we're thinking about individual appointments of, like the head of the FBI, we have to remember that organization, when it was founded by someone who themselves was a very diabolical figure. I don't know many people who have much love for J. Edgar Hoover, but this was an organization founded by that. And to some degree, I think that sort of seeps through the entire roots of the organization. So even if you have a new head of the department there, I don't know that you're going to be able to fundamentally change its nature from what it was. And, if listeners aren't entirely off the top of their heads familiar, remember that J. Edgar Hoover used the FBI to enact personal vendettas against people, spy on American citizens, infiltrate organizations and groups, blackmail Martin Luther King Jr. and, target his group, the civil rights movement. So it's always been an organization that's seemed to have an agenda to seek out a vendetta. And so, you can change out the head, but as Donald Trump found out from 2016 to 2017, when he appointed Christopher Wray, that doesn't always prevent the system from targeting you.
Yeah, so Christopher Wray was actually part of the reason why Donald Trump's campaign in 2016 got spied on. Christopher Wray is one of the people that fudged a FISA court document to get the Carter Page warrant. And so they could, de facto spy on Trump because Carter Page is in his circle and standing next to him at all times. How does Christopher Wray even have a job at this point?
Yeah, well, obviously, to some degree, he currently has his job because the Biden administration obviously has very little issue with targeting political opponents, as we've seen them do more outwardly and directly. I think the biggest flop was him being appointed in the first place, and I believe that was around 2017. Again, you can say that Trump was green at appointments, and hopefully this time he's learned and done a little better. Picks like Tulsi Gabbard and RFK Jr. maybe are indications of a shift there. But again, it's one of those institutions where I tend to think that it's so rotten to the core that even if you have a really good guy in charge, at best it will be harmless, only to be sort of dormant for a later date to once again be weaponized. So
do you think that there's going to be an investigation into this guy and what all he was doing at the FBI? Are we going to let bygones be bygones and just try and limit the destruction going forward?
I think that so there is currently a House investigation going on. Jim Jordan is heading that up, and he has indicated that he will continue to investigate even after Christopher Wray's departure. There's always a tension between what is going to be the most headline grabby and sort of grandstanding, maybe is more accurate, grandstanding sort of news piece that you can come out with for your press releases to garner support. But I do think Jim Jordan is pretty sincere in his wish to see justice done in this regard. So I wouldn't be surprised if this does actually blossom into a fuller investigation even after he leaves in January.
Well, shouldn't something happen to him for falsifying the documents to the FISA court? Isn't that illegal? Because the whole point of the FISA court is so we don't abuse these powers, and then here they are abusing these powers.
Well, it's kind of like asking a group whose self-interest is to not have scrutiny put upon themselves to scrutinize one of their own. It's always kind of it's kind of why there have been problems in the past with some of the police courts, when they try their own, because there's been shown to be evidence that they're going to be biased in favor of their own, because they themselves don't want to have stricter pressures put on themselves. So I think it's kind of when there's an incentive to let off someone else because it will make your own job easier, or you don't want your own scrutiny, I think you're going to see people naturally in that way. So I don't know that we're going to see.
No, that all makes sense.
Much movement.
That all makes great sense. Donald Kimball, great insight. I appreciate you being on the James Show. Where do they find you outside of WBAP?
Yeah, KimballDonald.com. I've got a new piece called Superheroes and Sign Suits. If you're into superhero movies and wonder why they've gone off the rails, I write about that in Man's Search for Meaning. So really appreciate checking it out.
Now, that sounds interesting. Thank you very much, Donald Kimball. I appreciate your time again, sir.
Thank you.